Next week, the House and Senate are poised to take up the marriage amendment, which will be coming to us as the wrong subject at the wrong time. We have in North Carolina at the present time many problems, our economy exacerbated by a terrible hurricane that has hit our coast, in particular the Northeast, and flooding among areas of the East. We have a sluggish economy which we need to be focused on reviving. We have a terrible budget which has cut jobs all across North Carolina. It is not the time to be bringing up a divisive social issue, which, if our polling can be believed, only 5% of the population of North Carolina believe we should even be focused on to start with. Today we focus on the impact on business and on other parts of our law, but we all know that the biggest corporations all across America are promoting diversity, are working to be inclusive, and to work for additional benefits for all their employees. At this time, instead of welcoming big corporations and business across America to North Carolina, we tackle a subject which has every indication of being harmful for business in North Carolina. To talk about these issues, I'm going to call on first Representative Larry Hall of Durham County. Then we will have Anthony Pugliese of the American Institute of CPAs. He's Senior Vice President of Finance, Membership, and Operations, and was involved in bringing the American Institute of CPAs here to North Carolina. We'll have Andrew Spainhour from Replacements, Inc., Representative Greer Martin, Representative Deborah Ross, Representative Rick Glacier. Representative Hall.
Good morning, everyone. I'm glad that you came because it's an important issue. It's an important issue, but it's not the right time for this issue. The time for now is to create jobs in North Carolina. That is exactly the opposite of what this issue would do. You know, in Durham, we've done everything we could following the governor's edicts and following those of the citizens to try to create jobs and create an environment where we can have jobs and employ people. And despite that, we have an 8.2% unemployment rate. And we have some of the greatest universities and facilities and research opportunities across the state. And these are the type measures that would be absolutely wrong for Durham, absolutely wrong for North Carolina, and would take us in the opposite direction. Instead of creating an environment where we can create employment, attract entrepreneurs, attract talent, we're going to try to put the sign up to say, you are not welcome if you want to contribute to our society, if you want to contribute to our environment, if you want to contribute to creating jobs in North Carolina. The city of Durham has already issued a resolution in this map, and it reflects what North Carolinians all across the state say, that we should promote equal rights and equal opportunities for the citizens of the state, and especially in Durham. You know, one of the reasons Durham is one of the top areas in the state for employment is because we do promote equal rights for everyone in Durham, equal opportunities for everyone in Durham, and specifically, we have that as a commitment that we've sent to the legislature to let everyone know. We passed a resolution to let everyone know, and we certainly want our citizens to feel welcome in Durham. The idea that we would even waste the time of the citizens of North Carolina, expend $50,000 a day for a special session, and then have this be one of the issues which is counterproductive to job creation. Citizens need jobs. We need to be here about jobs. That's what was promised would happen. That is not what has happened. Now, after me, Anthony Pugliese of the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants is going to talk to you about why the 450 jobs they represent are in Durham and in a city like Durham that welcomes people who can create jobs, who want to live in fairness, who want to live with equal rights, and who want to live in an environment where they're appreciated.
Good morning. My name is Anthony Pugliese. I'm Senior Vice President of Finance and Operations for the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. For those that may not be familiar with our organization, we have 700 employees. We're about $210 million in revenue and have historically been located in the New York tri-state area. I led the relocation project about 6 years ago that ultimately culminated in a decision to move to the Triangle. And I thought I would spend a moment talking about that decision. And also, 450 people has now grown into 550 employees out of our 700 base that will ultimately be located here. So we continue to grow, but our story starts back in some very simple ideas. We needed to reduce cost and provide greater services to our members, which are around the world, across the U.S. And we went through a very qualitative, quantitative process that yielded about 10 to 15 cities that met our metrics for jobs, workforce statistics, salaries that we thought we could afford. And we also looked at qualitative measures a lot closer. We got down to about 10 cities, and at that point the measures stopped and we made qualitative decisions on why we wanted to be where we ended up. And part of that was finding a welcoming, accommodating environment for our workforce, which isn't just LGBT employees, but every spectrum that you can imagine coming from the New York tri-state market. And we felt we had found that here. And I can tell you our decision would have been significantly altered. It would have been swayed, it would have been reconsidered had this amendment been in place at the time we were making the decision. So I'm here to stress that as a CPA, I guess I am for job creation. As a former chair of the Durham Chamber of Commerce, I don't feel like our process to decide on how to relocate our company is very unique. Every company goes through the same process. And when you look at the opportunity for relocating companies from the Northeast, from the West Coast, I don't believe that they're going to look at this any differently than we would have had this been in place at the time. So I believe our objective should be to expand our tax base and to take off items from the agenda that are going to be distracting to that objective, especially in a year when we're looking at budget issues and trying to attract growth. So that's our story, and that's our experience. And I can tell you our employees have been very pleased with the decision we've made, but this issue is causing unrest in our ranks now. So those are my comments for today. And I believe I'll turn it over.
Would you spell your last name for me?
Sure. Pugliese.
I have his card, which I'll show afterwards if anybody wants to.
No one
get
ever
the
says
message.
my name right.
I did.
You did.
Good morning. My name is Andrew Spainhour. I'm the General Counsel of Greensboro-based Replacements Limited. We're the largest retailer of discontinued and active tableware in the country. Over the course of 30 years, we have employed thousands of North Carolinians. We currently employ 450, and we provide our employees, their spouses, their domestic partners, and their children with health care, life insurance, disability insurance, and many other benefits. We have won a number of workplace awards for our employment practices. We are wrapping up a $10 million physical plant expansion providing construction-based jobs for hundreds. In our community, we are known for our corporate philanthropy. We support a wide array of nonprofit organizations, and it is our pleasure to do so. We have attracted hundreds of thousands of people to our showroom on I-85 and I-40 in Guilford County. We pay more than our fair share of taxes. We've done all the things we're supposed to do. For that reason, I would like to express on behalf of our founder and CEO, Bob Page, his partner of 22 years, Replacements VP Dale Frederickson, and our entire senior team, on behalf of each, I would like to express our frustration and our disbelief that we have to take time out of managing our business in a challenged economic environment to point out what a lot of people think. The proposed anti-gay amendment is a political overreach. The law on marriage is clear, and marriage as an institution will stand the test of time without any help from the North Carolina General Assembly. An anti-gay amendment, whatever its outcome, will create a mess that can't easily or quickly be cleaned up. If the bill sponsors get their way, we can look forward to an unnecessary, nasty, and divisive public fight that will document that North Carolina is a place struggling with its future. How can we say we take economic development seriously when we propose an anti-gay campaign that runs contrary to the employment policies and practices of the majority of Fortune 500 companies? Many of our state's leading economic engines, our banking institutions, RTP, our extraordinary hospitals and universities, each of these were built with the contribution of LGBT employees. It makes no sense that North Carolina, in a dark economic hour, should single out a minority of its population for public judgment. To those who say this won't hurt business, we say put yourselves in the shoes of someone trying to entice an LGBT professional or business leader or educator or some other member of the creative class to come to North Carolina, a state considering an anti-gay amendment in the year 2011. We're incredulous, frankly, that we can't all agree that's a tough sell. Moreover, leading bill sponsors tell us the only outcome of passing the proposed amendment is to define marriage. Do the bill sponsors not believe that laws have unintended consequences? As a lawyer who has worked with insurers to provide domestic partner benefits, I am not in a position to take on faith that domestic partner benefits will not be impacted. Senator Forrester's bill says very clearly that non-marital domestic legal unions cannot be recognized in North Carolina. The devil's in the details, and HR professionals, and insurance agents, and insurance providers, and lawyers like me, and regulators, and ultimately courts will get to unwind a mess that most won't fully appreciate until it's too late. Many of us in business are forced to make tough decisions every day. I've never known a business person worth his or her salt who, on studying an issue and finding more questions than answers, didn't say stop. Doing no harm is generally the right answer, and that is certainly the case here. An anti-gay constitutional amendment has no place in 21st century North Carolina. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm Greer Martin, and I serve in the House of Representatives representing a district in Raleigh. And like many of the folks that have spoken already, the Triangle District that I represent is crying out for jobs and a return to the path to prosperity that they were on before this recession. Those are the issues that they want me focusing on for them, not this divisive social issue right now. But I'd like to particularly talk about a perspective that's important to me. Like many folks that have spent a lot of time in the Army at Fort Bragg, we believe that Fort Bragg is the center of the universe. My Marine colleague here, Representative Hall, will disagree with me saying that it's Camp Lejeune. Both bases, it's safe to say though, have fared well under the BRAC proceedings. As the military has contracted, they've consolidated their operations at bases like Bragg and Lejeune, and that shows strong signs of continuing. Right now, we are just a few short weeks away from the end of the military's don't ask, don't tell policy, a repeal that was supported both by North Carolina's Democratic Senator Hagan and our Republican Senator Burr. When that happens, you're going to have many, many openly gay serving members of the military in North Carolina. These are folks who have done, in many cases, multiple deployments to Afghanistan, Iraq, and other parts of the world, who have been wounded, and in many cases, I think it is safe to say that we have had gay soldiers killed in the defense of their country. What message are we sending to them, the folks that we have brought to North Carolina to serve our freedoms, that they are a second-class citizen, that somehow by, if we oppose this act, that we're on a slippery slope to pedophilia and that sort of thing? That sends a terrible message to them, and I will not stand for it. Moving forward with this amendment right now sends the wrong message to North Carolinians crying out for jobs, and it sends the wrong message to Americans serving their country, protecting our freedoms at Fort Bragg, Camp Lejeune, Seymour Johnson, and other bases. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Representative Deborah Ross, and I also represent part of Wake County. In particular, I represent all of downtown Raleigh, which is booming right now and is getting ready to have a festival of creativity. I'm here to tell you, if this kind of proposal ends up as North Carolina's constitutional provision, we're not going to keep some of the young entrepreneurs, the creative class, the people who have formed small businesses and have made Raleigh a place, a destination for young people to come and contribute to this state. But let me tell you this. The folks who are proposing this amendment claim there's going to be no impact on business. Other states have passed this. They haven't had impacts on business. What other states have had is huge impacts on who doesn't want to come to that area, and they've had an enormous impact on their domestic violence laws. North Carolina in the last 10 years has moved forward in terms of combating domestic violence. Our domestic violence laws cover unmarried couples. When Ohio passed its constitutional amendment, its laws protecting unmarried couples could no longer be enforced. Criminal laws were not enforced against perpetrators of domestic violence against girlfriends, live-in partners. And domestic violence protective orders were not being enforced. The court cases in Ohio show that when you pass a constitutional amendment that only recognizes one kind of domestic partnership, it not only discriminates against same-sex people, it discriminates against unmarried people who live together. And our domestic violence laws will clearly suffer as a result.
Good morning. My name is Rick Glazier, and I represent part of Cumberland County in the 45th District. No one ever does the right thing from fear, and so many things of the wrong things are done in its shadow. And they build upon each other as bricks in a wall that divides us and then creates barriers to allowing people to come to that society or community. Richard Florida wrote a book at the end of the last century, in the late 1990s, called The Rise of the Creative Class, which was, most of you know, a New York Times bestseller and is a manual for 21st century job growth. And he starts off a key chapter that says the key to understanding the new economic geography of creativity and effects on economic outcomes lies in what I call the 3 T's of economic development: technology, talent, and tolerance. And for those then who say, as my colleagues have said all along, that there won't be an effect on jobs coming and jobs staying, it is an argument made against the weight of all of the evidence by national spokesmen and by the effects that have happened in many other states. Representative Ross is also right that the legal effects go way beyond on the proposed amendment, simply issues even relating to the business community that we've talked about. It's interesting to note that same-gender couples live in 99.3% of all United States counties. Nearly 1/4 of all same-gender couples are raising children. And interestingly as well, regionally, the South has the highest percentage of the same-gender couples in that category. The issues raised by the Senate bill include legal questions called into serious dispute, as evidenced by a recent paper issued by a number of UNC law professors and others that deal with the question of whether this amendment would change legal recognition of joint parenting rights, legal recognition of a child's relationship with both parents, eligibility for public housing and housing subsidies, access to employer-based health insurance, access to spouse benefits under Medicare and Medicaid, the ability to enroll non-biological jointly adopted children in the public schools, and that, of course, we added more criteria to this year, the ability of both parents to consent to medical treatment, an authorized medical treatment of their children, the ability to make decisions dealing with incapacitated partners, or for that matter, incapacitated children, the ability to obtain life insurance, the access to spousal benefits under workers' compensation, and the list goes on. The point of all of the questions raised is precisely the reason for this press conference, which is The amendment threatens literally to alter the family law landscape in ways not contemplated, I believe, by its supporters and not understood in many respects by the public. And there are good reasons why the American Medical Association in June of 2011, the country's leading professional association of physicians, adopted a policy position declaring that excluding same-sex couples from marriage is discriminatory in their mind, and reaffirming the AMA's policy to support relationship recognition of same-sex couples under current law. That study was followed and actually preceded several months prior by the American Academy of Pediatrics study in April of this year, involving nearly 32,000 high school students. And that study showed that in those states where amendments were passed, in those states where this becomes law, the issues affecting the psychological and physical and mental health of children have been seriously challenged and have been exacerbated. For all of the reasons my colleagues said, I join with them in saying it's the wrong time and the wrong issue. And right now, what this state needs is stability and predictability, and what we need to do is focus on the issue that our people want us to focus on, and that is their jobs and their families and their income and our economic progress as a society.
Wrong subject, wrong time, particularly in light of our recent hurricane and in light of our struggling economy. Now is not the time to focus on divisive social issues. We need to redouble our focus on job creation. We don't need to be spending this money that this special session will cost. And I will repeat, most North Carolinians don't want us to be focusing on this. It runs counter to where business across America is headed. We're told that 89% of Fortune 500 companies prohibit discrimination based on sexual orientation, including Bank of America, Lowe's, Duke Energy, BB&T, and Reynolds American, the 5 largest North Carolina-based public companies. Questions?
Speaker Hackney, is your caucus going to be able to defeat this amendment?
We are optimistic, but the issue is not settled.
I just want to make clear something. I mean, you say this is not the right time nor the right subject, but the issue is that you guys had this on your, as introduced when Democrats were in charge. You chose not to take it up then either. So it's really not an issue of wrong time or wrong subject. You guys just oppose it anytime, right?
Well, it's the function of a speaker to direct traffic in the House and the Senate leader in the Senate. The decisions that I made as speaker were the correct decisions for North Carolina.
But there's really no time that you could see where this should be taken up.
We don't believe that it makes sense to put this on the ballot. That's correct.
Speaker Hackney, KRP Radio. I find it interesting that a lot of folks that voted before had voted for the bill, but now they find that it's not important enough, or that it's the business that's going to suffer at this point. What's the difference from?
Well, first of all, it's not the same bill. This is putting it in the Constitution, which is an entirely different matter.
Would it have the same effect?
Just let me answer. May I answer the question?
Sure, absolutely.
And further, since the vote that you may be referencing some 15 years ago, I think the attitudes of the public at large have evolved and have been rethought. Business in particular, as we have tried to highlight here, has moved in an entirely different direction. And legislators themselves rethink issues from time to time. So that's the complete answer to your question. Gary?
Sorry. A lot of the complaints that we've heard have focused on the Senate version of the bill, of the amendment. If the House amendment were to be the one that largely passed, would the same issues still be surfacing regarding, domestic violence and workers' comp and health insurance? Maybe somebody could talk about that.
Well, I don't think we can know the answer. I think the point that Representative Ross was making was we can't know the answer of how the courts will interpret it. We can be perhaps more certain with the Senate version than the House version, but we don't know how the courts will interpret it. We know how business will interpret it, based on the way business has been moving in the direction of diversity in the workplace and honoring diversity in the workplace. North Carolina would be moving in an entirely different direction. Thank you very much.